the biggest story tonight with me, Shavansan. Ladies and gentlemen, we put the spotlight on a story which has largely gone unreported. A charter plane carrying 276 passengers, mostly Indians, which was grounded in France for over 4 days over suspected human trafficking, landed in Mumbai around 3 o'clock this morning. Operated by Romanian charter company, Legend Airlines, the flight was bound for Nicaragua and had landed in Vatry on Thursday. It's the airport which is closest to Paris, for a technical stopover en route from Dubai when French police intervened. They had also got an anonymous tip that the plane could be carrying human trafficking victims. Over the next 3 days, the plane, along with its passengers, remained in France as authorities initiated a judicial inquiry to probe the intent of the journey. In fact, the Indian embassy in France thanked the French government and the Vatry airport authorities for their hospitality and quick resolution of the situation that allowed Indian passengers to return home. In a short while from now, we'll also be joined by the lawyer of the chartered flight, in fact, Legend Airlines. Remember, they've been in the eye of the storm, keeping in mind that there was an anonymous tip that was received by the French authorities. This was largely to do with the fact that there was a possibility of human trafficking victims being ferried to Dubai and thereafter to Nicaragua. Remember, Nicaragua also happens to the very place which is largely being used by illegal immigrants to enter United States of America as well as Canada. Listen to some of the reactions that are coming in, and then we'll go across to that big exclusive coming in.
Des douanes, des points de police, etc., aient été passés avec succès, sans aucun problème. Après que les documents de voyage, passeport, visa, etc., aient été fournis par la société qui a commandé les vols, la compagnie aérienne, elle ne pouvait pas faire autrement que d'exécuter des vols charters qui étaient commandés dans des conditions qui ne paraissaient absolument pas suspectes. Donc la compagnie n'est absolument pas négligente en l'occurrence, elle a commis absolument aucune infraction. Et rien ne peut lui être reproché. Elle coopère dans toute la mesure du possible avec les autorités françaises et elle déposera plainte pour en réparation de tous les préjudices, notamment le préjudice à l'image et à sa réputation qui lui sont causés dans cette affaire. Le contrôle des douanes, des points de police, etc., aient été passés avec succès, sans aucun problème. Après que les documents de voyage, passeport, visa, etc., aient été fournis par la société qui a commandé les vols, la compagnie aérienne, elle ne pouvait pas faire autrement que d'exécuter des vols charters qui étaient commandés dans des conditions qui ne paraissaient absolument pas suspectes. Donc la compagnie n'est absolument pas négligente en l'occurrence, elle a commis absolument aucune infraction et rien ne peut lui être reproché. Elle coopère dans toute la mesure du possible avec les autorités françaises et elle déposera plainte pour en réparation de tous les préjudices, notamment le préjudice à l'image et à sa réputation qui lui sont causés dans cette affaire.
Let's also bring you that big exclusive on the biggest story tonight. In fact, remember, Legend Airlines, which has been in the eye of the storm, whether at all they were aware of the fact that there was a possibility that human trafficking victims could be present in that particular flight that was being operated by the airlines. Liliana from Legend Airlines is joining us on this broadcast. Perhaps also to put this into perspective, what's the reality behind this? Liliana, thank you very much for joining us on Republic TV. We'll try and just bring her on screen right now, getting you more details of the story behind this.
Thank you for having me.
Liliana, thank you very much for speaking to Republic TV. Let me straight away begin by asking you.
Thank you for having me. I just want to mention at the time.
Liliana, what I wanted to know from you is with regards to the fact that some reports essentially suggesting that the charter flight that was being operated by the airlines that you represent was perhaps carrying along with them human trafficking victims. What is it that you've been able to argue before the court in France with regards to what's the reality, what's the truth?
Well, first of all, I want to mention that I'm the lawyer of Legend Airlines. And for now, we didn't have the opportunity at all to be brought before court because my client, Legend Airlines, the aircraft company, was never accused of anything, actually. When the plane landed in France, the crew members were summoned to leave the airport. They were not accused of anything at any time. They were just invited to testify, to give some information to the police, and very kindly, actually. They were just left in a hotel. They were completely free, and they were just supposed to attend, a police station and to testify there. While the passengers were summoned to remain in the airport and were detained there, actually. So they couldn't go away. They couldn't get out of there. And there was a complete separation between the two crews. So the company and the crew never had the opportunity to be brought before court because no accusation has ever been formulated against them. But the passengers inside the airport were, some of them at least, had the opportunity to attend audiences before judges. The airport was transformed into a kind of temporary tribunal. And as far as I know, at least 3 passengers were heard by a judge who just decided that there have been irregularities concerning the procedure because, under French law, when somebody is detained, he's supposed to get information on his rights. So he's supposed to know that he's entitled to get an attorney, to get a translator, because these people didn't speak French at all. So they were completely unaware about what's going on, and the explanations that could have been given to them were not understandable to them because they didn't speak the language. So all these kinds of preliminaries that are supposed to be followed to protect the rights of the person who is detained were not performed in a timely manner. So because of that, the judge decided that the detention was irregular, and he obliged the police to free the passengers. But before even that moment, the aircraft was released from custody because, he wasn't in custody, but it was detained. So the aircraft was released and free to go. But the company didn't want to leave without the passengers. So we were just waiting to see what will happen. And once the passengers were free, except for 2 of them at that time, we just prepared the plane for takeoff. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Liliane, some reports essentially also suggesting that some of the passengers decided to stay back. And they say that, which also includes some minors. What's the full picture that is emerging after the investigation that has been done? Were they actually planning to go to Nicaragua and from there perhaps make that attempt to illegally enter United States of America as well as Canada, as some reports have been suggesting?
Well, for now, the investigation is ongoing. So nothing has been established for now. What we know from the interrogations of the 3 passengers who were interrogated at the airport by the judge before being released, is that they wanted to go to Nicaragua, and they had travel documents allowing them to do so. They had passports, valid passports, they had tickets, and they even had hotel reservations. So they had also return tickets. So at least these 3 were obviously supposed to go to Nicaragua, but we cannot speculate about what they intended to do next. Anyway, so for now, an investigation is still ongoing in France, and investigators are still interrogating the passengers who remained in France, but not in the same context. They are not accused of any wrongdoing at this moment at all because they have requested to obtain a refugee status. So they have entered into another special category of foreigners, and a special procedure will apply to them, which is particularly protective to their rights. So for now, they won't be heard by a judge under a kind of interrogation as if they are accused of something. They will just have the opportunity to explain their story, to just say why they don't want to go to India, why they seek asylum in France, and what they are afraid of. Maybe persecutions because of their religious belief, or maybe because of their sexual orientation, or because of something else, political orientation or something else. So they are under a kind of refugee program right now, and we won't take much information from them, at least directly, under the current investigation. But the two, what we also know is that the two who were detained and put in custody have also been released without any kind of charges and summoned to leave France. So for now, we don't have any proofs that any of the passengers has ever intended to go beyond Nicaragua to the United States or elsewhere.
Liliana, as far as your airlines is concerned, remember there would be some responsibility that they would also have. So for a charter flight to be adopted or to be hired by anyone, the agency would have given you some details. So who exactly did make the booking, first of all? And did the airlines actually do any sort of a background check when these bookings actually came in? Were you suspicious to begin with?
Well, we want to inform the press for now about the identity of the client, because we consider that he's still under the presumption of innocence. So, and because of the client-friendly, attitude the company has towards its clients. So we won't provide information for now about the company that hired the plane. But what is very important is that Legend Airlines operated under a charter flight. So the plane was hired by a client, a foreign company, and the crew also was hired by the client. And the only thing Legend Airlines was supposed to do is to just perform the travel from the point chosen by the client to the point chosen by the client. So under the contract signed between Legend Airlines and its client, the client had the obligations to check the travel documents of the passengers, their ID documents, and all the necessary formalities that are supposed to lead to a travel by an airplane. So obviously there has been, maybe at least, there has been some breach in this regard. And if circumstances allow us, depending on the evolution of the investigation, the company will seek responsibility. But I just want to add one thing. Of course, the company performs some checkings, but what I would like to ask is, how did the authorities, the police and custom authorities of the United Arab Emirates manage to allow all these people aboard the aircraft and leave the country without any kind of problem? I mean, they just pass the customs and the police controls.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, thank you very much, Liliana, for joining us on this special broadcast, putting this into perspective as to what is it that transpired in France with regards to that Legend Airlines, which has been under the scanner of French authorities as far as human trafficking allegations are concerned. Thank you very much.